Good morning, everyone. So it is my pleasure to introduce our panel today on talking about how to, quote, open the digital vault. So what does that mean? The idea is that, at this point, we've talked about the curatorial perspective, a bit about conservation and collecting. So think about, at this point, you have your collection. You have your collections database. You have troves of video documentation. You have metadata about your collection. And we find ourselves today in a moment where there's a cultural shift within collecting art institutions where we are feeling more free to be promiscuous with our data and think about how we can share this with the public, but also with each other. But I think it is important to sort of place this within some kind of criteria for success. So just very briefly, Gartner, a consulting firm in technology, has this really interesting thing they call the hype cycle, the hype curve. So they say that when technologies first emerge, it starts with the innovation trigger. So that's the first innovation. So then we enter the peak of inflated expectations. So the idea that, oh, well, if we just share our data, that in and of itself will be good enough. But we then enter what they call the trough of disillusionment. So the realization that, the simple act and effort is not enough. Then comes the slope of enlightenment and the plateau of productivity. So I think it's useful to take this, which is usually used to look at things like 3D printing or other speculative technologies, and apply this actually to the idea of sharing information. So first today, we'll be hearing from Sen Usaki, who is a theorist and archivist at the Keio University Art Center in Tokyo. And Sen has been working primarily in ideas of user interface and databases, and will be sharing some ideas with us on how they have been answering these problems. Thank you.
Yeah, this time I prepared a bunch of citations instead of my own, speech. Actually, I'd like to share some analogies of something archival. Instead of something curatorial. Something like exhibition content or museums content. Okay, let me start from their citation. Yeah. Okay. So the theme of my presentation or my citations is archival fiction, the art after the obsolescence. So the first quotation is, it's kind of like rehashing an obsolete anxiety. I think this is not a needless worry. I think we should rehash this kind of anxiety. So this is a quotation. It is only too obvious that there are unpredictable implications for the established systems. For example, the whole nature of collecting is perhaps becoming obsolete. And what is the traditional museum going to do about work at the bottom of the Sargasso Sea, or in the Kalahari Desert, or in the Antarctic? Or at the bottom of a volcano? How is the museum going to deal with the introduction of the new technology as an everyday part of its curatorial concerns? Yeah, this was once questioned 45 years ago here at MoMA. Yeah, it was in conjunction with an exhibition, 1970, entitled Information by Kanasu Makshine. Yeah, I think it's not there, because after this anxiety, we modify the contents to adjust the museum content or exhibition contents. And after this period, the postmodernist period, the things are really getting event-based, exhibition-based, curatorial-based things. So I'd like to talk from the minor part of this field as an archivist, but not as a person who are working in the backside, on the backstage of the exhibition. I'd like to quote a bunch of citations. Okay, so let's go next. We know that a text does not consist of a line of words, releasing a single theological meaning, the message of the author God, but is a space of many dimensions in which are wedded and contested various kind of writing, no one of which is original. The text is a tissue of citations resulting from the thousand sources of culture. One more. In a multiple writing, indeed, everything is to be distinguished, but nothing deciphered. Structure can be followed, sledded, like a stocking that has run, in all its recurrences and all its stages, but there is no underlying ground. The space of the writing is to be traversed, not penetrated. Writing ceaselessly posits meaning, but always in order to evaporate it. It proceeds to a systematic exemption of meaning. Yeah. Let me go just quickly so you can see there where is the quotation came from. Yeah. So next. Clearly, an exterior site is not a living being. Rather, it is a lake, a pond, or a fish hatchery. I like the word fish hatchery. Yeah. Here, the figure of the lake or pond acquires a new meaning, since the pond and the marble tile no longer refer to elastic waves that swim through them like inorganic falls, but to fish that inhabit them like organic falls. And in life itself, the inner side contained are even more hatcheries full of other fish. A swarm, it's a French word, because this is Duluth. It's goulouillement. It's like swarming of like bees or animals, insects, whatever, or maybe archival materials. Okay. Inorganic folds of sites move between two organic folds. For Leibniz, as for the Baroque, the principles of reason are veritable cries. Not everything is fish, but fish are teeming everywhere. Universality does not exist, but living things are ubiquitous. Okay. So next one is from Smithson. I like Robert Smithson very much. My basic idea of developing archive is really driven by Smithson's idea. Yeah. Anyway, in these natural troughs, they died and were eventually buried. Marshall K. and Edwin H. Colbert. So, let me show you where this citation came from. Smithson quoted. So this is what I like. It's Strata, a geographic fiction by Robert Smithson. It's like this kind of printed matter. And yeah, of course, you can read it from above, from the top, like globigerina woods and the bluish muds. But actually, the sedimentation process should be started from the bottom. But you cannot read opposite way, right? So anyway, this has such kind of fiction. Yes. So let's look for it's Carboniferous period here. Yes. In these natural traps, they died and were eventually buried. Yeah, I was, for a long time, just half a year, looking for the resource of this quotation. So I finally found, Amazon. Yeah, I bought a second-hand book, and I finally found a book of the, Master K and Colbert. So let me show you the book. Yeah, this one. It was just like, it's obsolete theory already, because at that time, it's like published in 1962 or 4, like that. So plate tectonics theory was coming. So the Marshall K's geological theory was getting obsolete. So anyway, this is also very important thing. Okay. This one was also used by Smithson. So, yeah, I found in a Carboniferous section, I found the origin, not the origin, I shouldn't say origin, the resource. Smithson referred, Smithson quoted. So I transcribed the citation here. Okay. The record of Pennsylvanian amphibians and reptile is particularly well documented at 3 locations in North America, 3 localities in North America, each of which is distinguished by a particular type of fossilization. Yeah. At Linton, Ohio, in a canal coal of Middle Pennsylvanian age, are the skulls and skeletons of small amphibians and reptiles that once lived in the ancient swamps. I like this word too, ancient swamps, right? It has some kind of like temporal, implication. You don't say like, oh, this is ancient swamp. This is like, if you are in front of the, swamp, then it's just like actual swamp. But you can say also like ancient swamp, yeah, covering this part of the continent. To the west, at Mason Creek, Illinois, are similar tetrapods preserved as are the contemporaneous plants and nodules within coal shells. But perhaps the most interesting occurrence is at Joggins. This is really interesting. Nova Scotia, where numerous trunks of Carboniferous trees are preserved in upright positions in the shells and coal beds. When these fossil tree trunks are broken up, a small percentage of them contain the skeletons of amphibians. It would appear that these trunks are the fossil remains of dead trees that rotted to become hollow. Yeah, the tree trunks and the hollow, this is very important. This is more of a main concern for me. Yeah, okay, so where is it? While still standing, they were kept in a standing position by mats that washed in around their bases. Then it would seem amphibians occasionally crawled or fell into the hollow, upright stumps and were unable to get out. In these natural traps, they died. You can imagine how I was so enthusiastic when I finally found this sentence from this. Okay, were eventually buried, and their skeletons were preserved to give us today a fleeting but vivid glimpse of things that happened in the geologic past. Geologic past. Yeah. So, we can focus also like the vivid glimpse of things that happened in the geologic past. The things, the livings or lives. But I'd like to talk about more like the hollows and tree trunks or ancient swamps, their environment, not the content, but more like container side of the things. Yeah. So actually, let me show you the tree trunk. These are amphibians. And this one. Yeah, the upright tree trunks fossil. It can be a capsule to keep something, but when you find something inside of the tree trunk, the hollow, it's not really like high percentage. It's very small percentage. Yeah, you can find something. Most of them are just like empty, void. Yeah, but this kind of condition must be analogized. Could be analogized as something like archival if you compare with like curatorial fiction and archival fiction. Because I'd like to talk. Can I have 5 minutes more? No? Okay. Already 15 minutes because, yeah, okay. So when I discuss with Dorian Chong, a curator, he was a curator here at MoMA. It was just before the exhibition Tokyo show. It was 2012. So he proposed me to share an idea or theme like the productive frictions between curatorial fiction and archival fiction. It sounds very, interesting. But it drove me to think about like the slash or intersurface between two, concepts. For example, like something major and something minor, something like selected and just all or comprehensive, or things consisting or effectively establishing exhibition content. And the other one is they're escaping their exhibition content. Yeah, these kind of things. So then I think, we should also think about these kind of things as not the backstage of the museum content, more like, individual things or different mode of, art, handling art. Yeah. So anyway, these kind of things, we can talk a little bit more later. I hope we can share my, citations as an analogy or the model of archive. Yeah, to be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sen. So next we have David Smith, who is the head of digital for the Asia Art Archive. David also is a former Europeana, which if you're not familiar with it, it's a great European metadata sharing initiative. So I hope we'll be hearing a little bit about that. Thank you.
That's forward, yeah. Cool. This is a perfect temperature for me, by the way. This is Hong Kong Mall temperature, so this is good. Cool. Okay, so firstly, thank you for having me. My name is David Smith. I'm the head of digital at Asia Art Archive. What I'm going to present to you in the next 15 minutes is really a work in progress. These are ongoing discussions about what we're doing and how we're revising our kind of digital presence to increase access and really activate the archive. So very briefly, Asia Art Archive was established in 2000 primarily as a response to the realization that there weren't really that many sources of documentation relating to contemporary art in Asia. So over the past 15 years, we've partnered with a lot of organizations in the region to collect and selectively digitize a large range of primary and secondary source material on contemporary art in the region. And we like to think we have probably one of the best collections of this kind of material. Access has always been a really, really primary driver for us, and digital access has been really key to this too. Sorry. But one of the other things that's really important for us is actually how we activate these collections. So we have very wide range of programs and educational activities. And so we're very consciously not a passive archive of material waiting for people to come in and look at the material. We make sure that people know it's there and they're actually using it, and using it at multiple levels. So not just very high level kind of academic uses, but high schools and general users as well. So this is the current website. So in 2012, we started to make a lot of the material that we had digitized available online. Again, I'm not going to talk about this too much. You can go and have a look at the website yourself. But like pretty much every other website with collections, you put search terms in the red box, search, and you get hits back. And this is what you get. So we actually describe our archives to the item level. So what we have is very, very kind of rich metadata, and it's roughly based on Dublin Core, but a lot of it is actually non-standard. It's bespoke, and the system underlying it too is bespoke. And so you can see here's the individual item description, and then on the far side, that's basically the archival arrangement of the material. So in mid-2014, we started looking at our digital systems, and there's nothing wrong with them. We were very happy with them, but there are a couple of questions that we kept on coming back to. Are they really best serving the people who are accessing these collections? Is the system the best way of working with our partners who we're digitizing and working with? And have we got the right tools for people to kind of create the new knowledge out of these collections? So this is a very simplified diagram of kind of how we're working. So if you look at the top, we have a research department, and they're working with the researchers and organizations across the region to kind of research and identify the collections that we're interested in. We then do an appraisal process and a digitization process, which is really where the partners are kind of quite heavily involved So we actually digitize, all the material is digitized locally, and then it comes to Hong Kong. We don't take physical archives out of any country, they all stay locally. Once the digitization process is finished, the arrangement and description side of it is completed back in Hong Kong, and so there's less actual interaction with the partners there. Once we make them available, then the users, this is where the users are starting to access them, and then we also activate them with our programs, and hopefully, and if we're lucky, some of the discussions coming out of the programs can then inform how we carry on and do research and look for other collections. So what we did is we actually started to talk to people. We did some audience research, and we learnt a lot, and we learnt some very interesting things that we didn't really know before. The first thing, I've done two. Sorry. So I'm going to go back. Oh, no, it's doing two at a time. I don't know why it's doing that. But yeah, the first thing is that people were taking stuff off the website. And we actually go to really quite crazy kind of extremes to stop people taking stuff off our website. We spoke to quite a few very high-level academics and PhD students and stuff, and every single one of them really casually was like, yeah, we just take all the stuff that we need off the website and we keep it locally. And there were actually some really good reasons for this. One of them, which for us as an archive, was that there was actually very little faith in those items staying on the web and staying available for a long period of time. And some of the PhD candidates were actually being told, grab this stuff off the internet because it might just disappear and you won't be able to cite it at a later date. Other things were things like they just didn't like how we were displaying the content. So we had a bizarre 15-minute conversation with us Skyping with someone in Los Angeles with her fighting her iPad to try and show us how bad our document viewer was. And it just kind of went on and on with the iPad changing perspective and the thing being tiny, and yeah, it was really bad. So there were actual reasons why people were taking the stuff off the website. Also, the second point that's already appeared, not everyone really liked how we were doing our arrangement and description. So we were talking to a PhD candidate working on a collection of material from a Filipino artist and educator called Roberto Chabet. And she raised the point that the way we had done our arrangement of it was logical in one sense, but in the way that she was working with the collections, it didn't actually make so much sense and actually lost some kind of contextual links between items that, for her research, were actually important. So, of course, she was taking the stuff off the website and then actually doing her own arrangement locally. And so arguably appraisal decisions and arrangement and descriptions are really a snapshot of the person or the creating agency, and themselves are a bit of a political decision anyway, but it kind of raised these questions of how do we make this more transparent, as we don't really have legislation or anything defining how or why we do this stuff. We also found that two things come up at the same time, but that's not a problem, that people, when they were researching with us, the research only went so far. So they would use the website and get to a point where they would just email the researcher in Hong Kong and just ask, oh, is there more material? Or I can't access these documents because our document reader's not so good. Can you just email them to me? So we had this strange situation where we had the website with access restrictions and copyright information and things like that. When people were emailing us, we were just sending them the documents and saying, oh, just don't distribute this and destroy them when you're finished. So we had this kind of, this kind of split. We also were finding that we had a scale issue. So that was another reason why people were emailing us, that they knew we had collections and they were still going through the process of being arranged and described and made available. So these last two, I guess, are kind of, in some ways, quite obvious. And so what we were doing is that we were also already starting to do some of this stuff within the organisation. So we did a project with the Baroda University in India with the Fine Arts faculty, very, very big project. And it took about 4 years between the initiation of the project and the first material becoming live. This slide, you can see, relates to Rashid Areen's The Other Story exhibition at the Hayward Gallery. And this, again, is a smaller collection of material, but this was turned around in about 4 months. And you can see one of the ways we've actually done it is we've started to flatten the metadata out. So all of these exhibition views are now just The Other Story, which is good in one way for researchers to access material. It's not so good in a kind of digital environment where it's very much on a kind of item level, on an item basis. Okay, so we done all this research. We were looking at other ways that how we were working differently. So we were starting to reassess if there was a new way that we could work. And so the first thing we wanted to be is, strategically, we wanted to shape the archive as an invitation to build a collaborative infrastructure for the creation and sharing of new knowledge around recent art in Asia. And when we say a system, we're not really talking about a new digital system like a content or collection management system. It's also about how we work and about how our processes work as well. So this is much about how people change, about as much as how digital and software changes. So yeah, we wanted to be distributed. So we wanted us basically to be a node within a network. And there's, again, a couple of ways that we can do this. One is things like the exchange of metadata, which, as I said, is what Europeana and people like that are working on. So yeah, we could also do that. The other thing is that from the projects that we've done is we're relatively certain that there are some parts of the region where they just don't have the infrastructure to do this work. So they don't really want to go through building up a collection system. That whole idea of adopting a metadata standard or creating a metadata standard, even digitization standards and all of these things are really complex, and it was really difficult, and it was causing a lot of trouble. So one of the things that we would like to do is create a system where our partners and the people we work with can basically just directly access our system if they don't have their own system. So they can just log in and upload material, upload metadata and things like that. For us, this actually raises lots of ethical and archival challenges because it means that the role of us and the role of our digital collection team would change in who's defining what materials should be uploaded, defining on the level of metadata and how they should be described. And so these are things that we're having to work through to do this. The next thing is we wanted to make it more accessible. And here it's actually really good. We don't really have to reinvent the wheel or do anything particularly new here. We can just see what other people are doing, including MoMA, who have just released their metadata, and other people have done that. So we'll do the same. So CC0 essentially is almost like a public domain declaration. So you're not having any rights in your metadata. We're working on licensing our content under Creative Commons licenses as well. So it's clearer. We have rights statements, so people can actually download the material and they know they're allowed to. An API is actually an application programming interface, and it's just a way of other people being able to communicate and interact and get information directly from our database, so they don't always have to come to our website. So this is so these are the two other ways. The other one, oh, we've gone too far, is engage. So we really want to turn this from passive to active. Are we at 3 minutes? No. Yeah, so we want to do things like visualization tools and timelines and generous interfaces and to change the way that people are accessing the content. With the search box, the red search box, it basically assumes that the user knows that the content is there and they know how to find it. And so we want to work out new ways of allowing people to actually browse through the collections and find new ways of seeing the collection and even doing their own arrangements, for example, so they can use the available metadata to create their own arrangement of the collection. This is just one actual example of what we've done. You can go online and check this. One of the projects we've done in India is a bibliography project, and as part of that, we worked with Mitchell Whitelaw to create a series of visualizations for this collection. So you can actually see here, this is all based off the bibliographical metadata, and so the project went to key places and was finding bibliographical information about Indian contemporary art. And you can see here, for example, we have the date ranges and the amount of works selected by the place Chennai compared to the whole of the collection, has the tags, has the maps. So these are just other ways of accessing the collection and getting away from this idea of just using the search term. Yes, I will stop there. Okay, awesome.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Alf Cheng, director of ETAT Lab, an organization dedicated to digital art and new media in Taiwan.
So hello everyone, I'm going to translate for Alf.
这是怎么按上下 ？OK， 好，各位，很荣幸参加这个活动，那带来我在台湾一些参与过艺术资料库建制的经验，这是我的讲题，关于档案。
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to join you and share my experience of building art archives in Taiwan. The title of my presentation is Regarding Archives.
我的名字是张世福，在地实验媒体实验室担任总监，他也是数位艺术基金会的董事。那在地实验创立在1995年，到现在是20年，基本上它是一个艺术家团体，然后部分的成员跟我一样，也同时在数位艺术基金会工作。 那这个基金会目前帮台北市政府营运台北数位艺术中心跟台北数位艺术节的活动。
My name is Alf Zhang, director of ETAT Lab and Digital Art Foundation in Taipei. ETAT Lab is an artist group founded in 1995, 20 years ago. Some members of ETAT, including myself, are also working for Digital Art Foundation. This foundation is running the Digital Art Center in Taipei and Digital Art Festival Taipei for the Taipei City government now.
好，首先我来介绍2个资料库，台湾当代艺术资料库跟在地实验我们自己本身的网站。
First of all, I'd like to introduce 2 databases to you, Taiwan Contemporary Art Archive and the website of ETAT.
这2个资料库都是我从头都开始参与的，所以比较容易解释。然后他们有2个不一样的运作方式，这稍后我会说明。
I worked for these 2 databases starting from their inceptions. They work very differently.
好，这个是第一个 TCAA， 就是台湾当代艺术资料库，现在是由台湾视觉艺术联盟，就是 AVAT 经营的。这是现在网站的样子，它看起来像是维基百科的外貌。那有一些作品的分类，还有基本功能键。
The first example is TCAA, Taiwan Contemporary Art Archive, which is run by AVAT, Association of the Visual Arts in Taiwan. And this is how it looks like. It is a Wikipedia-like layout with very basic menus.
特色的介绍，首先这个是台湾当代艺术资料库的特色，是一个中英文双语的环境，就背后是一个非营利的研究团队。
It is a bilingual database about contemporary artists and is run by non-profit research groups in Taiwan.
它内容的特色就是一般系统的分类，然后我们将陆续逐年完成建制。那未来可能还会增加新的类别，希望能够建立是在台湾的当代艺术知识网络。
The systematic categories are constructed year by year, and new categories can be continually added in the future. The mission is to build a knowledge network for contemporary art in Taiwan.
它用的是实体的伺服器主机，然后用 Linux 开放原始码，还有MediaWiki。那这也是它为什么看起来很像维基百科的样子，但是它现在没有开放让一般使用者去编辑的功能。
About the platform and the software, it has a standalone server with Linux platform and an open source MediaWiki. That's why the layout looks like the Wikipedia. However, it doesn't support the function of anonymous editing.
这是一些现在艺术家已经上线的情况大家可以稍微看一下。
So here are some files of contemporary artists from Taiwan.
像这样哦。那这个资料库的营运者视觉艺术联盟在台湾是成立在1999年，那目前是有800位成员。它服务的就是成立的宗旨是为艺术家服务。
This database is run by Association of the Visual Art in Taiwan, AVAT, which was established in 1999 with over 800 members. Their mission statement is "Serve the artist."
这是我们今天主要讲的在地实验，我们自己的网站。在地实验这个名字是来自于法文的 EDA， 所以我们一般都是念 EDA 而不是 ETAT。
So now I will focus on the web platform of EDAT. The name EDAT comes from the French word état, meaning the status. So that's why we don't call it ETAT.
它是由装置艺术家黄文浩在1995年创立的。那一开始是一个论坛的空间，后来它就变成是艺术家团体了。在2004年的时候，我们开始变成是策展团队，从事策展的工作。
It is founded by Mr. Wenhao Huang, an installation artist, in 1995, and it began as an art forum, and it gradually developed into an artist collective. Starting from 2004, we also work as a curatorial team.
这是在地实验现在网站的样子，因为我们现在正在进行改版，所以我们现在看到的都是旧的网站资料。那更新的网站就是在今年的12月会上线。那这个改造计划也是今天我要跟各位分享的重点。
So what you can see on the slide is EDAT's current web platform. We are now implementing a web enhancement and a whole new digital platform, which will go online in December. Today, I'd like to share the enhancement project with you.
好，在地实验这个团体的历史是从1995年开始，所以就是20年了。那首先形成的计划是一个拍摄记录那个艺术家的纪录片，后来这样子也变成是经常以影片记录艺术事件跟现场表演。后来我们也从事团体创作，做装置跟互动的作品。
So going back to 1995, when EDAT first started, our project back then were mainly art documentary films. And later on, we also used film to document art events and performances. We also worked on video and interactive installation art.
这个是我们开始记录的一些影片。这是1996年在台湾有一些艺术家自主发起的艺术活动，叫空中破裂节。然后这是当时的情况，还有当时的企划者吴宗伟。
This is an art event initiated by artists in 1996 in Taiwan, and it is called Mid-Air Rupture Festival. This person is in the previous slide, is the main organizer Wu Zhongwei.
这是另外一个我们去做记录的是，在1998年台湾艺术家发起的一个抗议活动，它是争取政府的闲置空间。
This is a protest organized by Taiwanese artists in 1998. They were calling attention for the abandoned public buildings in Taiwan.
这个下面这一位就是当时接受我们采访的抗议艺术家。
And we interviewed some artists who took part in the protest.
这是我们自己的作品，这是一个互动的装置作品，在
So
2002年的。
this is an interactive installation we did in 2002.
这是另外一个用实验室名义发表的作品，在2006年。
This is what we did in 2006.
在地实验其实是成立在1995年之后，一直都作为分享跟开发观念的一个平台。
So the EDAT Lab, since its establishment in 1995, has always been a platform for sharing and developing ideas.
那回到1990年代，当时的环境在台湾的艺术圈并没有很成熟的影像制作环境。那我们有当时很少见的剪接设备跟摄影棚，录制表演跟活动，所以这些文字影片当时就以数位的格式在网络上面流传。
In the 1990s, the condition and resource for producing moving image in Taiwan was immature. We owned editing and film studios and were able to record and produce conversations, performances, and other activities and share those visual and text material in digital forms online, which was very rare back then.
对，当时网络上网的方式是用 modem 的拨接，那频宽是56K 的 bit。
We used the dial-up internet access and the bandwidth was 56 kilobit.
这个是1998年我们当时的剪接台，
This is our editing station in 1998.
这是当时我们播出的节目。
And our TV program broadcasted online.
大家可以看到它的品质比较差，那是因为符合当时的播出环境。
So the resolution wasn't that great back then.
我们也自己办活动在摄影棚，所以这是一个在摄影棚进行的声音艺术表演的活动。
This is a sound art performance that took place in our film studio.
在地实验现在在进行一个，就是刚才看到以来20年来，数位影带转成数位档案的工作。那
ETAT is undertaking a project to digitize our old videotapes that we have produced in the past 20 years.
我们想用重新去标志跟全新的观点，就把这些旧的影片重新运用。
We hope to be able to reuse these visual materials through independent critical point of views.
也同时做了就是制作跟线上直播工具的升级，所以以后在那个高品质节目录制的时候，同时也会进行网络的直播。
At the same time, we upgraded our equipment for production and broadcast, which enables the program to be streamed live online while recorded in high quality.
这个就是20年来我们的影片母带，然后经过选择之后，大概有几百支。
These are some of the original tapes produced in the past, and we selected several hundreds of them to digitize.
接下来是比较观念的部分，就是关于，这个是，在艺术家自己组织的这个团体里面，我们碰到就是保存的问题。
So artist-run organizations always face the problems of conservation.
因为我们有就是比较受限的资源，然后就是比较没有办法用很好的经费去做保存跟维护。
We have some resource constraints, so we don't have a lot of funding for conserving the materials.
所以我们必须学习如何运用有效跟免费的工具。
We have to learn how to use effective and free tools.
而且就是用档案可以分享、分散式的管理，降低中心的负担。
For example, file sharing can be managed in a decentered way and thus reduce the workload of the center.
我们在当代思想里面常常讲一个去中心化，其实在最近10年来，就是在数位时代里面已经碰到部分的实现。
Decentralization is the key word in contemporary theories, and that has already been partly realized in the past decade.
那我举2个例子作为就是说明了。第一个就是分散式的管理，相对于集中式的管理，中央集中式的管理，还有传统的分类跟标志的不同，可以说明。
I can elaborate that through the example of distributed and centralized control systems and comparing different ways of categorization and tagging systems in the past and present.
这是一个就是分散式管理的这个模式，大家可以看，常常被用在开放原始码的软体管理上，大家可以看右下面的图示。
So the distributed system is often used to manage open source software, and if you look at the image at the lower right,
下方的使用者就是本身也可以修改软体，而且相互传递。
so the image on the lower right shows how the users can also revise and upgrade softwares and share with each other.
然后原来上一层的这个资源方原始的出处，甚至也可以再分享下面的成果。
And it can be shared with the original source as well.
跟左边的这个中央管理的版本的模式，就是显然 新的方式会有所提升，效能会有所提升。
It's more effective compared to the model of centralized control system on the lower left.
像这个 Git 就是一个很有名跟重要的象征，它是一个管理版本的软体。
For example, Git, the managing software, is an important example.
对，而且他们形成了一个知识社群，这也是新的模式。
They have a kind of knowledge community.
我们今天要讲的这个在地实验2.0，就是在这个概念上开始的工作。
Our web enhancement project 8.2.0 is a project based on this concept.
在资料定义跟连结上会有不同的方式，那主要是增加标志的分量，补足传统分类不足的限制，让使用者可以用社群的力量去进行知识分类跟更新，就比较接近使用者的所需。
We will have new methods to define and link the data, mainly to increase the amount of tagging. The users' communities can categorize and upgrade knowledges by themselves and customize that based on their needs.
所以编辑自己可以做线上策展，那外面的使用者也可以创造自己的社群。
Our editors can curate online, and our users can create their own clusters.
所以现在其实很多影片也都必须用到定点标志的功能，以便可以更快的得到所需的内容。
So now timeline tagging is important for viewing videos so that the viewers can quickly find the content they need.
这跟传统影片就是要从头依顺序收看的这个习惯已经非常不一样。
This is very different from the traditional viewing experience based on chronology.
这个是我们年底即将要上线的一些网站的情况。
So this is our new website that will go online end of this year.
那最后，我想对数位化的这个资讯环境提供一些想象。
So I'd like to, I'm very excited to share with you some of my imagined prospect
这个
for
英文字
the
是
infosphere.
这英文字在1970年出现的，就是我们被资讯包围的生态环境。
This word infosphere appeared in 2007, and it refers to our living condition.
那像是鸟在空中飞行，鱼在水中生活一样，因为我们生活在其中，所以融入了，很难感受到。
We are living in an information environment without feeling it, just like fish in the water.
所以当我们在想这个资讯要如何、档案如何保存的时候，我觉得就是可能会有什么样发展，未来应该还有更令人惊奇的发展。
So I'm very excited about the future of preserving and sharing information.
例如，这是一个真的进行中的实验，就是2013年已经有很多人科学家开始研究用 DNA 去做储存媒体的研究。那这个实用理论可能会改变我们未来对数位档案保存的观念。那如果有一天实现了，可能资讯的交流、保存、传递会超过我们现在的想象。
For example, in 2013, there was some research about how to store files on DNA, and this kind of experimental theory might change our concept for digital files in the future. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, it is. Thanks, everyone. I would like to invite the speakers to the table for some Q&A. We're running a bit short on time, so I'll keep my comments brief so that we can open up to the audience. But my first question is for David. I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit, for those in the audience who are at institutions that don't have collections APIs, perhaps you could elaborate a bit on what are the largest challenges in creating a collections API. But I suppose first, if you could perhaps explain it one more time for those in the audience who aren't technical.
So I guess APIs are basically a way for people to communicate with other databases. So it sends a request to your dataset, and the dataset will then reply through the API. So what this means is that third parties can actually build products and things like that on top of your dataset using APIs. So for us, the interest is really, again, it's something we'll have to activate ourselves, is how do we get third parties to really incorporate our collection material into their own uses. And again, I think from your discussion at the beginning about the arc, I think maybe APIs and how we're going to interact with APIs might be in that arc at the moment.
It does seem currently that the most use of them is internally at the institution. One example at MoMA is the object photo website. So that, if you're not familiar with it, is a great interactive site with many data visualizations, and it's relying very heavily on Collections API here at MoMA that's internal, that allows us to abstract away from the museum system, which is our collections management system. My next question is for Alf. I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit on the wiki model and perhaps how you've gone about cultivating a community of contributors, trusted contributors to your wiki.
Yes, we use the open source wiki, media wiki, but actually it's an open source, but didn't limit the user will open the function. So we build the, I mean the TACC, TC, yeah, Taiwan, yeah. It's not a full wiki like. It just 它只是一个维基的外貌，它并不是真的维基的功能。
I was saying that the first example, the Taiwan Contemporary Art Archive, only looks like a wiki-based archive, but it, because it didn't really allow the community to edit the content, so it's not really wiki-based.
Okay, well, that's a very different thing then. Thank you for elaborating on that. And lastly, Sen, your talk was really inspiring in light of some recent acquisitions here at MoMA with these very large collections of performance archives, where we have these sort of clusters of material that are not even documentation of the work sometimes. They're these very large archives. And I wonder, a lot of what you were talking about was this fossilization and these encrusted things. And at what point, I wonder, can we as museums start to open up access to this material? And I wonder if that's something that you've been facing.
Can I answer? Yeah, this time I came to New York, mainly as courier to bring an item back to my university. It is, the Ono-Yoko show. It is soybean sprout, dried up, with printed matter. It's invitation of Yoko Ono show, Yoko Ono performance in 1962 at Sogetsu Center. Yeah, this was originally found like more than a few years ago, like 5 years ago, and they archived my work together with my colleague. Yeah, I was like processing as an archivist. It's not really like interesting job. Most of the things are, I shouldn't say, but almost like garbage and itching sometimes. And yeah, and also it's a bunch of insignificant things, but sometimes you can find. But it was actually a printed matter with dried up soybean sprout. Now it's focused, and it's, it got like spotlight. But I feel kind of ambivalent feeling like, yeah, I brought it to MoMA to show their, in an exhibition. It can be a component of their, very successful exhibition. I mean, Yoko Ono show, but still I feel like it's not there. It wasn't really prepared as an artwork. It's invitation, it's printed ephemera. And when you say printed ephemera, it's not really ephemeral, it survives instead of the ephemeral art, I mean the performance itself. So this kind of thing, I mean, instead of true ephemeral things, I mean the event quality of the art, we use such printed ephemera as something survival, right? So this kind of quality is always like, you always need to adjust things to the exhibition content to realize an exhibition and a show or a narrative or whatever. So then, I always feel like somehow I have to realize different dimension of the condition of the experience of artwork instead of like seeing something in an exhibition space. So then archive is very small, narrow interface. If you guys come to my work archive at one time, I will be disappeared. I mean, I cannot accept all of people like, MoMA or exhibition space, but archive can be kind of like different kind of interface to get an experience of art, not like exhibition component, more like swarming quality or something. Yeah, anyway, yeah.
Thank you. I think let's open up to the floor for questions.
Hi, I enjoyed all of your presentations very much. I have a question for David. One of the challenges of representing archives online is that often there's a selection of what gets digitized and what doesn't. And so I'm wondering, is there a selection process for Asia Art Archives at the item level? That's one question. The other is, are you in any way representing relationships within collections? You're describing at the item level, so you have collection level, you have item level. Is there anything in between them that you're capturing?
So yeah, to the first question, yeah, we're actually very, very selective in what we digitize. So when we do projects, we go out and work with the collection locally. So if, say, for example, it's an artist-run space, it's very much on the researcher at AAA and the local people who actually manage the physical collections to actually select what is digitized. And yeah, it's only a very small proportion actually of the entire collection that does get digitized. I think that was one of the things we're actually thinking through with this is, well, how do we make that clear? Because there's this assumption online that it's everything, and it's actually the exact opposite. It's nothing really. It's tiny.
Are you doing any digitization on demand on researcher requests?
At the moment, no. It's something that we've discussed. So we have in our actual physical library in Hong Kong, we have an amazing collection of primary materials of exhibition catalogues and ephemera that you really can't access anywhere else in the world in some cases. But for academics and people like that, it means that they have to come to Hong Kong, which, there's a financial issue there, you have to get funding, that kind of thing. So one of the things we want to do, and we see it as a disruption, is being able to digitize this and make it online. But yeah, at the moment, we aren't doing that. Someone's holding up a time's up thing, but do you want me to really, really quickly answer the second question? Okay, sure. Yeah, no trouble.
Great. So thank you so much to all of our panelists, and thank you all.